Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We are happy to welcome all the reporters and journalists to our press conference. My name is Catherine Fleming Bruce. I am with Tnovsa Global Commons, and along with other individuals and organizations today, we are holding this press conference to talk about the proposed budget cuts to the Richland County Conservation Commission, which provides historic preservation grants as well as conservation grants. So this is the virtual component of our press conference. Our speakers are going to be Eugene Washington. Uh, both of these folks are here in Richland County. Eugene Washington, Executive Director and producer of Gene Washington Productions, and Dr. Bobby Donaldson, University of South Carolina Civil Rights Center, and ColumbiaSC 63. So we will have statements from both of those individuals at this present time. So we'll start our first statement with Mr. Washington. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I am delighted and honored to be a part of this process, this push to make sure that the Richland County Conservation Commission continue to receive all of its needed funding so that we might tell history, not tradition, but history, words and events that are based in facts. And so I was honored to have been the project manager for 4 documentary films through the Richland County Conservation Commission. I did a project film that addressed the historic Waverly area, the Lower Richland, the enclave that is called Ridgewood, and then lastly, the enclave that is called Greenview. And I want to reference you, if I can, to the film that was done that told the story about the people and the institutions of Greenview. That particular film was entitled Boatesville, Botesville. And the story focused on those individuals who made the Greenview voting precinct one of the most powerful precincts in the state of South Carolina. And that is important that we told that story, and we continue to lift that story up in light of the fact that there is an onslaught that is ugly and is vile and in its attempt to push back and to do regression on the voting rights of people of color all across this country, but especially in the South. And as we think about this possibility that this Richland County Conservation Commission could lose some funding, we want to promote this idea that history is important, not just for the sake of families, but for the sake of the country, for the sake of this county, and also this state. Allow me to reference you to an article that was written in the state newspaper on Sunday, April the 11th of this year, and is titled thusly, State Bills Aims to Restore, in parentheses, in quotation marks, patriotic history education. Now, let me just give you just a bit. Concerned that South Carolina students are ill-informed about the nation's history and are being taught a perspective that paints the United States in a negative light, dozens of state lawmakers have signed on to a bill that aims to restore, again, in quotation mark, patriotic history education by mandating annual instructions of America's early history using prescribed texts, including some authorized by conservative groups. And so there is an element of foot that is attempting to prolong the lies and a distorted history of the United States and the South. And the fact that many states, I think 4 states, just celebrated Confederate Memorial Day as they continue to lift up the lie. And one of the major lies of the Confederacy was that the Confederacy in the Civil War was not about the South's attempt to enslave African people. They claimed it was about states' rights. So that's why it is important for us to promote the healthy amount of money to go to the Richland County Conservation Commission so that we can continue to tell factual and true history, because in my opinion, America would never be the greatest institution and greatest country that it can be until it deals with a gargantuan cancerous lie that is called white superiority and black inferiority. America is dying a tragic and slow death based on the concepts, the lies of white superiority and black inferiority. And as a people of good conscience, we must help dig out and destroy this cancer with facts and historical events, and not lies that will promote this country to continue to be dying of the slow death that's called cancer. If we look at the onslaught on our capital, there are people who are still saying that those were patriots, but in fact, those were thugs, those were hooligans who went to the Capitol to destroy what we call democracy, and they were led there by one Donald John Trump. So what I consider to be history and historical recordings, those elements serve as medicine so that we might cure America for this dread cancer that is called racism, and that is based on lies. And so again, here is people in the State House who are talking about they now want some history to be told from a patriotic perspective. And so it is our responsibility, people of good conscience, to make sure that we tell the story and we tell history. We showed one of my documentaries, Come Home to Waverly, which was about the historic Waverly area. We showed that to some students at a middle school. And when the viewing was over, the teacher came to me and she pulled me in the corner. She thanked me for having come and shown the documentary. She said to me, she said, Mr. Washington, regrettably, the first time that my students hear or see anything about people of African descent, it is about slavery. And that in itself is a lie and a distortion of facts. And so with every ounce of my fiber, I would implore, I would beg, I would do any and everything I can to hope and pray and to do whatever I can to make sure that Richland County Conservation Commission gets all of the funding that it needs and it should get so that we can tell the true aspects of our country so that we might help heal this nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for that fine statement and for all of your work.
Thank you.
Now we're going to go to Dr. Bobby Donaldson, who's going to present his statement. Please go ahead, sir.
Well, thank you very much. I'm honored to be here with you and with my friend, Eugene Washington. I just want to join the chorus of citizens around our state who are deeply concerned about the potential defunding of the Richland County Conservation Commission and the potential defunding of a vital chapter in the history of our community. For too long, the history of African Americans and other marginalized people and communities have been intentionally and willfully ignored, erased, and destroyed. And for many years now, the Richland County Conservation Commission, its members, and many of the projects they've funded have enabled us to tell a more complete history of our community and of our county. And so I want today to encourage the continued and expanded support of the Richland County Conservation Commission. Now, why do I do that? I do that because I'm a historian, I am a professor of history, and I do that because I'm a citizen of this community. And I have seen time and time again how very modest support has enabled individuals, organizations, and neighborhoods to reclaim their history, to document their history, and to share their history with the wider public, especially among young people. With the funding to date, churches have been able to preserve historic structures. With funding to date, we've been able to expand the narrative and understanding of the Hampton Street corridor. With funding to date, we now have a destination in Lower Richland called the Barber House. With funding to date, we can now walk through the historic Randolph Cemetery and see evidence of the extraordinary history of Reconstruction. With funding to date, we can go to Ridgewood and see a historical marker honoring a man named Deacon Benjamin Mack, an unsung figure of the Civil Rights Movement. And so in nearly every corner of our state, we've seen, of our county, we've seen the extraordinary impact of the investment of support by the Richland County Conservation Commission. And now we're at a unique crossroads where we're now seeing the potential defunding of this organization. It is not just the taking away of resources, it is the potential of actually erasing further history. It is the potential of actually enabling the removal of other history. There are so many vulnerable areas, communities, and buildings in this county. And if you do not have the vigilant support of the Conservation Commission and of its members, and if you do not have the funding in place, we are in jeopardy of losing so much of the history that is around us. Some years ago, I joined the Richland County Conservation Commission when they sponsored a unique conference here in Columbia called the Slave Dwelling Project. And I gave an opening address, and I want to conclude with the words I used those years ago. They are not my words. They're the words from a historian and an activist named Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune from South Carolina. In 1937, she said the following: "If our people are to fight their way out of bondage, we must arm them with the sword and the shield, belief in themselves and their possibilities, based upon a sure knowledge of the achievements of the past. We must tell the story from the cradle to the grave, tell it in kindergarten, high school, college, and university. From this history, our youth will gain confidence, self-reliance, and courage." And then in 1937, Dr. Bethune said, "And as we look about us today, we know that they must have this courage and self-reliance." So again, this funding that we seek and champion today is not simply about preservation. It's not simply about conservation. It's about our people, all of our people. It's about all of our stories and all of our histories and our collective responsibility to do whatever we can and to put forward the resources to make sure that history is both preserved, is documented, and then shared with the broader public. These fundings should remain in place and expanded. And I hope all of our county leaders will take this under consideration and do what they can to undo the unnecessary defunding of the Richland County Conservation Commission. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks to both of you, to Dr. Bobby Donaldson, University of South Carolina Civil Rights Center and ColumbiaSC 63, and to Eugene Washington, Executive Director of Gene Productions here in Richland County. Thanks to you both.